This meeting will be recorded for minutes and perhaps will be broadcast online later on. If you're not happy with this, leave the meeting now. All right. Thank you very much. So we'll go on then. Welcome, all of you here. Are there apologies, Anwen? Yes, I have received apologies from Councillor Wynant Jones and Gerald Hattle. Nobody else? No? Alan Griffiths. Oh yes, Alwyn isn't well. Alwyn is here.
Right.
Is he? Okay. Fine. Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. So, welcome. Are you better, Alwyn? Good. So, we'll go to the minutes. Does anybody support minutes? Propose that they're correct, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much. Everybody happy? New show, please. Can we see? Right. Edgar? No, I was proposing the minutes. Okay, thank you very much. So report by Director of Planning and Land Management. Anwen. Need to express interest on item 4.2. Anyone else want to declare an interest? There we are. So we go on to the first planning application. And this erection, if I can come in here, Mr. Chairman, I think that something matter arising from the minutes. Owain. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My hand was up. Yes. On page 6, Mr. Chairman, I know it's possible this will come up later on, but there's quite a matter of urgency that started on the work, and it'll come up later on. That will be fine, but just in case it doesn't come up, I'll raise it now. What's the update? Sorry, I missed the question.
Yeah, it's
on page 6, John. Item Neuadd Mannau. Suggestion that there's urgency. Starting, the work will start soon. If this comes up later on, I'll ask for an update. Meetings have taken place between officers and Cadw. There's an assessment on the condition. Jane, and perhaps you can say more on the assessment of condition.
Yeah, no, in respect,
yes.
In respect, I was actually going to provide an update later on in committee. I don't know, do you want me to continue now, or would you like me to provide the update later on when the item comes up?
I'm happy enough if it does arise later on, discuss it later on. Fine, thank you very much. So let's go on, therefore. What's coming up now? Jane, yes? Or Richard?
You're on mute, Richard. Sorry, I was just having trouble with my screen. I'll just share the slideshow. Chairman, this is an application for a single-story side extension at Gelliron Nanmore.
Cyn gyrru ymlaen, mae Gethin wedi...
Before going on, Gethin, sorry, Richard, but his computer has frozen. Is it possible for the officers to do something about this? Or is that impossible? No, you have to. Thank you very much. Councillor Gethin is back now, Mr. Chairman. Right, Richard, okay.
Okay. Application in Nanmore, Gelliron. Its proposal is for a single-story side extension and a raised terrace. Gelliron is quite a prominent property. If you look on the site on the screen, this. Let me just get my highlighter. This is the road through from Llanrothen through to Beddgelert, and this is the Nanmore Road. If you know Nanmore at all, this is the village road. Good looking property. It's had a render to the front elevation, very prominent from the Llanrothen Beddgelert Road. This is the village road. That property is neighbouring dwelling. It's not part of the of this curtilage. The proposal is to erect a single-story side extension on this side of the dwelling, extending out into where they're parking cars at the moment. Also, as part of the application, there is a raised terrace which continues an existing terrace at the front of the property. There's the Llanrothen to Beddgelert Road, and the village road is running just below this hedge line. Normally this sort of scale of development wouldn't be brought to committee, but we have an objection from the Community Council on the basis of overdevelopment and inappropriate character. I'll just run through the photos and then I'll explain. So the extension is proposed on this side and raised terrace continuing along into this grassed area here. So I'll just run through the photos. It has been extended before, which is this extension at the back. But as part of that, which was 2008, that was granted permission. As part of that application, there was a side extension which they chose not to build, but they could quite legitimately build that as part of the previous permission. It's still extant and they could still build it. So again, there's the rear elevation with the extension that was built in 2000 or permitted in 2008. Plans, this is what they're proposing, is a side extension, single story, extending out on the gable end, setback, and the raised terrace to the front. Rear elevation and side elevation is quite within policy. If we were just looking at the extension on its own merits, it falls within the policy for size of extensions. The previous permission, if I just show you, was for this side extension, which it extends further back and is the same sort of height as the what is now being proposed. They could quite legitimately go and build that without any recourse to us now. It is extant. They could continue the proposal. Now, I don't know what you think, but I feel that what is now being proposed is actually more in character with the property than what has got planning permission. The scale is very similar. It's actually smaller than what has got permission. So it's difficult to concur with the community council saying that it's overdevelopment, because they could build something which is actually bigger than what is now being proposed. And the character, I feel, is also more in keeping with, or it's less intrusive, I think, than what is now being proposed. But don't forget, we are also talking about this raised terrace that does require planning approval. But it's a permeable surface. It will have a small dwarf wall, a terrace on the front elevation there. But they could put tables and chairs on the grass area. So in terms of provenance, I don't feel that it warrants objection. Based on the policy, the most important ones really are effect on the listed building. It does fall within the conservation area. The building is on our list of traditional buildings. So it's those two policies really: the effect on the historic, well, three probably, historic environment, the conservation area, effect on the traditional building, and the size of the extension. Based on those, we do feel that it's because they've got the fallback position, they can build something bigger. It's very difficult to object to it on policy grounds. It does fall within the policy, and the effect on the conservation area and traditional building is felt to be less intrusive than what they've got planning permission for. So on that basis, we are recommending approval to start within 5 years, to build in accordance with the approved plans, appropriate slate roof, and a permeable surface to the terrace. Recommendation is to approve, Chairman.
Iawn, diolch yn fawr, Richard.
Thank you very much, Richard.
Reit, sa rywun yn cynnig rywbeth?
Is anyone proposing anything?
Edgar?
Edgar? Yes. I agree that it looks better than what they already have planning permission for. And I think that I propose that we go with the recommendation, please. Thank you. Gethin. Can you hear me, Gethin? Yes. I will second that Councillor Owen's proposal. Brian.
Thank you, Chairman. I have one question for Richard, and that is, I noticed you specify permeable material for the terrace. Is there any specification on the nature of the retaining wall for the terrace in terms of natural, local stone and its integrity with what's already there? If not, I would suggest that should be conditioned too.
Good point, Brian. I will do that. No, there isn't a specification, but if we can match it in with what they've got already, then so have a sort of a slate frontage, then yes, we will do that. It's a very small uplift actually of about 300 or 400 mil. So yes, we can specify that.
Iawn, diolch yn fawr.
Thank you very much. Anybody else want to speak? Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry. It's I couldn't find my hand. It's at the end of your arm. I accept, Mr. Chairman, the size of the extension, but I see the Community Council's point of overdevelopment is going to be quite prominent. Can we restrict the terrace to the size of the extension, and then it will ameliorate the impact that the Community Council is concerned about? Richard?
Well, we could certainly go back to them on that basis. But if that's what the committee want, then yes, we can certainly go back to reduce the size of the terrace.
Iawn, diolch yn fawr.
Fine, thank you very much.
Edgar, os ydych chi'n-
Edgar, would you accept that as part of your proposal? What does Alwyn has just said, that to go back is what he's proposing, go against what they're asking for? Is it going further out than the extension? Alwyn or Richard?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is by probably about 3 meters further out than the extension.
Yeah, I'd be quite happy to have that in, yeah.
Iawn, diolch yn fawr. Judith.
Fine, thank you very much. Judith, thank you. I just wanted to agree with Alwyn because the proposal is smaller than the original. So clearly the terrace is what the community council is concerned about, and it's important that we take that into consideration. Thank you. Thank you very much. Owain? Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just looking at the cross section on page 17, and I don't agree with the community council or Alwyn that it's very prominent. If there's a bit of a concern, perhaps it would be a better condition to have some sort of shrubs in front of it to limit that it's not so much striking.
Iawn, diolch yn fawr.
Okay, thank you very much. Anybody else want to speak?
Os nad oes, awn ni'n bleidlais.
If not, then we'll go to a vote.
Sut ydyn ni'n pleidleisio heddiw,
So-
Iwan?
How do we going to vote today, Ewan? Hand? We can try with a hand first, just to make it clear from the discussion we've had. The proposal is that we go back to them to ask, negotiate on the terrace that's in front, that it's smaller. Yes. And John, and allow myself and John to make a decision. Yes, that's my proposal. So yes, we'll go with that. So I want a hand on the blue hand up. Sorry, I don't see. Can you remind me where I can get the the hand? Go to participants. Fine. At the bottom of that, right at the bottom, you see a white blue hand and a green tick and a red cross. It's down there. The blue hand, in the new version of Zoom, it is, and it's on the reactions button at the bottom. Reactions. Oh, I can see it. Thank you. Thank you very much for that. There we are. Fine. There are few blue hands up. I take it that these are in favor of the proposal. Yes. Alwyn is one of them. Fine. I can't see that there's anyone against. There are 4 ticks, green ticks, and then there are a few blue hands too. So I take it that the blue hands, Mr. Chair, what's happening is that the tick disappears after a few seconds. If you don't harmonize this better, we're not going to be able to do this properly.
Just
let you know, I think this is because Zoom has made a change and supposed to have made things better, but then, as you say, disappears. My feeling myself is that it would be an idea to get a list of everybody and just go through the list. You know, ask who agrees, perhaps. At the moment, there are 4 green ticks and there are 7 now I take that the 10 have voted, so that has carried. That's passed then. Okay, thank you very much. We'll go on to the next one. This is Brindero, Guildford Talsana. This is the speaker. Can I go, Mr. Chairman, can I go to the waiting room, please? You're welcome. Well,
Di roed Anwen yn yr ystafell aros.
put Anwen in the another room. So can we start then? Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Aled, yes. This is an application in Brindero to change use of part of agricultural buildings to sell as has been done in the previous condition. The site is above the 8496, just outside the village of Guildford, and you can see here Brindero is here, and the building that is the subject of the application has been outlined in red. And looking back to, this is the entrance going up. You can see the present building has permission to store guns, and this development is enhancing what's there at present, a small part of the shop, and just a few square meters, and it's out in the countryside. There's a video to have an overview of the room. So this is the parking area. You go down now towards the present building, which has permission to sell guns and ammunition. And this is the present house here. And then we're walking up now towards the area, the building that is subject of the present application. And only about half of it will be used. The site is in open countryside, and agricultural land surrounds it. There is sheds next to the present shed as well. And this is that they have a business of wood around. This gives an overview of the site. This is the building. They started on the work, and where that certain amount of work has been done. So this is the site where they'll be selling, and that's part of the building. And this started with the foundations down. And this is sound with the present building. Here are the pre-planning commissions, the strategic policy C, and the 24 specifically. This is the main consideration. It is here. As you've noted in the report, the development is totally contrary to both local and national policies, because it's a site in the open countryside. It's the application for an agricultural building, and there's no agricultural use of the building at the moment. You'll see there's a shop, a small shop at the moment of 59 meters square and 15 meters square, and then increased to 59 meters square. So at the time permission was given, it's quite unique at the time, and it's a very small area. And the site was going to offer a bit of training on use of guns, and they had permission for guns and selling. So the development policy 24 retail, and this restricts retail developments to the main retail sales within towns and villages, and in the policy, local policy, doesn't support retail development. So it's not a suitable location in the opinion of the officers, and it clearly, local and national policy clearly states that new retail commercial developments should be located within towns and villages. Strategic policy C sets out the spatial strategy of the local development plan and identifies the proposal is not acceptable because it's in open countryside. So if we consider this completely contrary to local and national planning policies, and it would set a dangerous precedent for similar development in countryside. And in considering the previous application, we considered that there were material considerations at the time to warrant an approval. At that time, the proposed retailer was very small and specialist in nature. And that's the intended use of the building is subject to application, and the assessment is totally contrary to local national policies and guidance and development policy 24C and strategy C, and because of that the officers recommend that the application is refused. Thank you, Aled. There's a speaker.
Mr. Bailey, yeah?
Mr. Bailey, yeah?
Okay.
Okay. So welcome, Mr. Bailey. You have 3 minutes. Thank you very much. You're on mute. We're not hearing you. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chairman.
About a consented rural enterprise which currently employs one person. With your further support today, will employ another full-time local person to meet the increasing demand from farmers and license holders with guns and ammunition. Contrary to what you may have read, the applicants are not seeking your consent for the sale of outdoor clothing and equipment, and the applicants are not seeking your consent to use the existing shop in addition to the property of which this application forms part. The applicants are only seeking a relocation from one building to another on the same site that already has planning consent for the sale of guns and ammunition only. When the applicants previously sought consent to facilitate the commencement of use on this site, the officer in his report to you recommended consent, and I quote, "Having considered the above assessment of planning matters, including the local national policies and guidance, it is believed due to the relatively unusual nature of this particular retail offer that the application can be supported." And paraphrased elsewhere, given the considerable amount of open space and degree of separation from public roads and other members of the public, it is not considered that this retail offer would be suitable for a town or village centre location, and in reality needs to be located away from built-up areas. So why is the planning officer quoting all the same policies and guidance arrived at a different recommendation than was put in front of you only 18 months previously? The policies and guidance referred to have not changed, nor should I add has the support locally for this farm enterprise from all of the following: Talsana Community Council, Gwynedd Highways, the Firearms Officer of North Wales Police, Ecology, Gwynedd Council Public Protection Officer, and 4 neighbours. It's extremely frustrating to hear reference about there being significant concerns that should this application be granted will provide a precedent for similar proposals. This is incorrect. The planning use on this site was consented in 2019. This is about your support, please, for the same use under the same planning conditions as is already consented and subject to strict licensing conditions at the same site. If the applicant's request is refused, how will they be able to secure the future of their business? As previously, the park officer has said that this retail offer is not considered suitable for a town or village centre location. About 80% of UK businesses fail in the first year. 1 in 3 small businesses were due to close in Wales due to COVID-19, probably higher for retail. This little business bucks that trend, and with your support today, will continue to do so without being at risk of threatening the viability of any other local business. We ask you please to give this important application your full consideration and your support. Diolch yn fawr iawn, pawb.
Iawn, diolch i chi, Mr Bailey. Diolch yn iawn i chi. Iawn, sa rwy'n yn cynnig rhywbeth?
Thank you very much, Mr. Bailey. Is anybody going to propose anything? Shall I leave the meeting now? Mr. Bailey's just asking that. No, you can stay. If there are questions arising, then it would be fair enough for Mr. Bailey to answer the questions that arise. That's the usual procedure. Afterwards, I imagine it would probably be better for him to leave afterwards. Okay, thank you, Mr. Bailey.
Mae gennau llaw fyny, Elwyn.
I have my hand up, Elwyn.
Llaw las i fyny. Beth di'r gwan? Da ni wedi rhoi cefnogaeth i hwn.
We've supported this 18 months ago, and it was within policy. Why have the policies changed now then? I'm just asking Aled the question, what's changed in 18 months? It wasn't against policy 18 months ago. It is against policy now. What's happened? What's different? The shop that got permission in 2019 was small. It was specific for selling guns and bullets. And they offered training for the use of the guns. Now they're extending the business significantly and selling other merchandise. So from a 15 meters square, it's increasing 59 or odd square meters, which is significantly larger than what's there at the moment. What was considered previously, well, it was pretty bespoke, really, and not many people would visit the site, but this is opening the doors by making the shop significantly larger. If I can just come in on that point, just to make it clear, when this application was previously submitted, it did go against policy previously, so nothing has changed as far as the policies are concerned. It was subject to a lot of discussion the last time among the officers, and we came to the conclusion, because of the scale of the proposal, it was so small, you could hardly find an unit that was as small as what was being proposed, and it was put forward the last time, like Aled mentioned, it was pretty bespoke when an individual approaches us or goes to the shop, and it may have been against policy back then. We tried to be flexible in the way that we dealt with that application, and we decided, after quite a lot of discussion, it was a difficult decision, we decided to support it, and I think this is an upscale to something different. It's more like a shop, something that we would expect to see in town centre. Gethin? Your hand's down now. I can't see anybody else's hand up. Elwyn, there are quite a few hands up actually. Okay, there are 5 or 6 members or hands up now. Tim, can you hear me? Yes. A lot of the questions that I was going to ask has already had a response, but I am concerned about the precedent that would be set as a result of this, and I agree with what has been suggested by the officer. Thank you, Tim. Brian?
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I recall a discussion on the previous application very clearly. And my recollection is that we gave the exception based on it being a very small unit, and the case made by the applicant that it needed the location to trial the weapons. I'm not in favour of the extension, which is 4 times the current size, as I think it will completely alter the character of the site that is there, and contrary to the policies, you would be developing a retail outlet in the open countryside, which is not what we approved before.
Iawn, diolch
So
Brian.
I would support the recommendation.
Diolch yn fawr iawn. Gethin?
Gethin. Thank you, Chair. I'm supportive of this application, really. I think it's still a bespoke business. As somebody who works in the countryside, we're not able to promote these types of businesses in town centres. Like the speaker said, this type of business isn't really suitable for a retail or public situation. It's totally unique. It's not a change of location. There's not an extension to any building, just it's an internal change. And there's an opportunity here for us to try and support rural enterprise here. I propose that we permit it. Ivor? The children have been using the TV. They're using all of the bandwidth. I couldn't hear anybody previously. Ivor, that is. I'm a bit torn with this, to be honest. Where else could you have this type of business? The countryside is the natural place for it to be located, but they're asking for an extension, which is a bit over the top. I can see that doubling the business would be something reasonable, but to make it 4 times bigger, he's asked a bit too much, in my opinion. The question I have for Jonathan or Aled is there any way of alleviating the building itself and the site? As far as elevation is concerned, the building is already there. So the effect of the building in itself isn't all that much of a problem. The problem is the use. I think that a gun shop would be suitable in a village. I'm sure you'll be aware that there was a gun shop in Penrhyn Deudraeth not all that long ago at all. I know that businesses in town centres and villages do raise concern that they need planning support. And these are the type on the scale that they're proposing that could help viability in our town centres, especially during these COVID times, because a lot of people are complaining that town centres are suffering. And if we start permitting things like that in the countryside, then it's going to raise a lot of very difficult questions for us to have to deal with in the future. As far as alleviating the shed itself, well, it's there already, so I'm not sure if that's possible. I have another question, in fact. This was developed under permitted development less than 10 years ago, and the justification was that there was agricultural use there. I can't see much agricultural use there now, and it's being proposed for a totally different proposal, so I have more extensive questions than that, really. Owain? Thank you, Chairman. Like Ivor, I'm being pulled both ways or torn about this one. The agent did mention that it wasn't an intention of the developer to sell anything else. What went through my mind was if we could get confirmation for that and what the justification could be for an area 4 times the size of what's already there for the guns. Also, if the committee were minded to give permission, what sort of conditions would be attached to the proposal? And would it be possible to ensure that any other sales were a sub element of the ammunition side of things? I recognize that there is a, you can argue that it is unique and bespoke, similar to what John said. Really, it can be located in a town centre, but maybe the market is a bit different. The question is, could we manage the risk of it being more of a shop that's general in nature? Edgar, sorry, before a question, there's a question for the officers there. With regard to the existing shop, there are strict conditions relating to the shop, relating to ammunition, selling ammunition only, and they've just started selling the clothes there as well. And increasing the size to 4 times more, it opens up the element of selling other things as well. So we could put conditions on that to limiting ammunition and guns like we have done already. But of course that needs to be managed. Edgar?
Yeah, question.
I also have a question. They've had permission to do what they made an application for last time. We can't withdraw that. So what's the reason for making it 4 times bigger if they're not intending to sell other things? The original permission is for a place to keep pigs. John, did you want to come in there? John, you wanted to ask a question? Well, I have asked the question. I just wanted to come. I asked the question previously because there was confusion. Okay, what did you want to ask, John? I support this application. This is a building that's already there. Nobody can see anything from outside. The community council is supporting it. They're supporting a young person to hold his business by his home. Like Jonathan said, there was a shop in Penryn. I went there myself and that's closed. That's now moved here to all intents and purposes. Guns isn't really something that Tesco and Aldi can sell. Luckily, it's specialized and it's something involving the countryside. I support this because it creates another business and it helps the rural economy, and it's something that we should be doing, especially now during very difficult times for businesses. I 100% support this application. Can I just come in here? Talking of countryside, and they're supposed to be in countryside, there's a gun shop in Bangor and there's a practicing range in Ruthin as well, so they can be located in town centres as well. Alwyn. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's a difficult one. On one side, we should celebrate the fact that business like this is extending and that a success is happening somewhere within our communities. I understand what the officers are saying. I'm not a gun person myself. I might as well admit that, but I do accept that some people do enjoy going out to shoot. It's an essential part of keeping abreast of things in the countryside. The shop in Penryn closed and they provided an honourable service for many, many years, and it's now closed. So it's more difficult to look for resources which are necessary in the countryside. The biggest problem here is the size of the extension. Is there any way to go back to the applicant and say the committee isn't happy with increasing the size of the selling area or commercial area? You should just reduce it by half. I think that would be a solution that would be acceptable for everybody at the end of the day. Thank you. Aled, there's a question there. Or Jonathan, if that's what the committee wants, I can go back to the agent and applicant and ask them to reduce it. But we have to emphasize is that there is already permission there for a gun shop. People can go there and buy a gun for their own purposes. So it's already there. The consideration here is that they're more than doubling the size to another building. And what exactly are they going to sell? Okay, thank you very much. Does anybody else want to speak? Gething has proposed that we permit the application. John seconded. I can't see that anybody else wants to speak. Can I just come in quickly, Alan? If we're going to vote on this, on permission, obviously there is no control over what's regarding the EU commercial use. So it's asked for a munition shop. Also, there should be a condition there, or it can mean that they could sell anything there. It could change the nature of the business tomorrow. And because of that, and because of the important principles here, which are basic principles relating to planning with regard to permitting shops outside of town centres, I think I would have to call this application into the authority if the committee is minded to permit it, because we need to think about this further. Elvet's hand is up. I am very supportive of business being supported in the countryside. I'm torn here. We're going from the size of a small shop to the size of a supermarket. And when people want to try guns, they can do that in the open air. I'm totally torn, and I'm supportive of the fact that they're going to extend and employ other people, but going from a small unit to a supermarket-sized unit, well, is agriculture the main use on this site? There's an acre there. There isn't a lot of farming going on there, not when I was on the site anyway. They have a tree cutting business, but there wasn't any stock on the land when I was there. So it's an agricultural development, is it? No, it's a change of use of an agricultural building, because there was farming pigs at the time, but I didn't see any pigs or any agricultural plants either. Can we go back to the applicants? Because I'm not minded to refuse, but I think it's very big. Are there options to discuss things with the owner so that we can get a consensus, which is fair for everybody? Well, at the moment, we have a proposal and a seconder that we permit. I don't know if they want to withdraw that proposal. Gethin now wants to ask a question. He has spoken once, so a question? No, I don't have a question, but I was willing to accept all of the conditions relating to the shop, original shop, and that there are additional conditions to state that they wouldn't be able to sell additional products. I just see this as a way of being able to keep more different types of stock, nothing else. That's how I perceive it. Edgar?
Dwi'n meddwl, a swn i'n fodlon gwella defnydd ar chi'n alw i hwn, bod ni'n mynd yn ôl atyn nhw.
I think we should approach them again. Why are we finding that only now that they need 4 times the space for this type of thing? Once again, I want to see the business succeeding. I would like to see it progressing. I think we should approach them again and try and bring down the size to at least half and see what their response is and bring it back to the next committee. If I can come in here, a lot of members have been talking about coming back to committee. The proposal that you have in front of you and which has been seconded is to permit. If that succeeds, obviously it will be permitted and it'll be 59 meters square. That's what the application is. If it fails, then you can put forward another proposal, which is either that you take it back to officers for discussion or that you refuse. And then it'll be open for the applicant to come back. There is a procedure for us to follow here, and the procedure in front of you at the moment is to discuss the proposal to permit. Tim wants to speak. He's spoken as well, and Brian too. I just wanted to propose that we refuse the application as is, but that to tell the applicants that we'd be very happy to discuss it further and deal with something smaller, because I do support the element of supporting a rural business, but what's in front of us now, it's bigger than is acceptable. We can't discuss more than one proposal at the same time. If we can discuss, if the first proposal fails, we can then discuss other proposals. The question for you, one, is it acceptable to give a pre-notification if this is being refused? It's open for you to discuss what you'd like to do and propose. Well, if the proposal fails, then that can be a part of the discussion, but you can't make a formal proposal. Brian, you have a question.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I have a question for the officers based on the concern that there is evidence, and we saw photographic evidence of what you might call mission creep on the conditions that were imposed already. Should the committee be disposed to approve it, and I've already said that I would support the current recommendation, but should the committee decide that it wished to approve this or a similar application with conditions, what control do we have as an authority over the insistence of compliance with those conditions? Because quite clearly at the moment, there is already evidence that there is a flexible view of the applicant with regard to the conditions that were imposed previously.
Yeah, Mr. Cadeirydd, wel, llwn ni os
we could put conditions, and we could make a case against the applicant if they don't conform with those conditions. Obviously, we would have to visit the site to see if the conditions were being breached. Okay, I can't see any other hands up. We'll go to the vote. Iwan, we'll run through the names, shall we? Can I just ask a question before? No, anyway. I removed everybody's hands who had already spoken. So it's all clear now. I agree. We should go name by name and we should be totally clear which way the vote has gone. In the previous application, it was clear to me that the motion was carried, but in this case, it can be much tighter. So member by member, please.
Could we have a clarification of the motion that we're voting on, please?
My understanding is that the proposal that's been made is to permit it, but with strict conditions which have been set out in accordance with the conditions that are already in force on the smaller site.
Iawn, diolch yn fawr. Tisio cwestiwn iawn? Cyn i bleidlais, mae llaw las i fyny, Judith.
Gen i, dwi ddim cweit yn dall. Ydyn ni fel, o'n i dan yr argraff bod...
Apologies, I don't quite understand. I thought this was one proposal and then we were going to propose something different with regard to the smaller site.
Y cynnig sy'n gael bron ar hyn o bryd ydy ganiatáu a caniatáu y cais, ond gyda'r amoda sydd yn bodoli ar yr uned llai. Felly, y cynnig ydy ganiatáu uned 59.
The proposal is to pass the application with 50, as it stands, with 55 metres squared. If this fails, then it's up to you then to propose something else. But that's the proposal that has been seconded, that is coming in front of you for vote now. And I'm not sure. I would suggest that we go member by member. So when we get, each member will say what way they're voting. The list of names of everybody is at the front of the programme. Right, I understood this, misunderstood this. So the proposal includes the condition to restrict it to sell guns only. Gethin, as the second time, came in the second time and explained that he wanted to include the restrictions on the present unit. So if Gethin confirmed that put your thumbs up, Gethin, if this is correct. Okay, fine. Right, we'll go to a vote. Freya. In favour of permission or against? Freya.
I'm in favour of permission.
In favour then, right? I'm against. Alwyn, in favour. In favour.
Judith.
Alwyn is out. Judith. Abstain. Edgar. Against. Elved.
Elfed, chair of the...
Elfen, you're on mute.
Sorry, Ellen, I don't know.
Sorry, Elwyn, sorry. Abstain. Abstain. John Pugh. Gethin. In favour. Phil.
Against, but I want to come back to the further proposal.
Okay. Wyn, Ivar.
Wyn is not here. Ivan. Against. Brian.
Against.
Tracy. Against. Sarah. Is Sarah here? No, she isn't. Chin. Against. Owain. Against. Thank you very much. So 4 in favour, 8 against and 2 abstained. So it has been, the vote on that proposal has been defeated. So we're now open to any member to make a different proposal. Phil.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Yes, I would propose that we go back to the applicant, ask them to both justify the extent of the proposal and seek to have a reduced footprint for it.
And you're proposing that?
Yes, I am.
Thank you. Edgar? You're on mute. I'm willing to, with that, to second that. Owain. I was going to second, but Edgar's already done so. Okay, thank you very much. Ivar? The same. Fine. So the proposal is that we discuss, and we'll go through the names again. I think that was the best way. So Freya?
Yeah, I'm in favour of that.
I am too. Alwyn? In favour, Mr. Chairman. Judith? In favour. Edgar? In favour. Elved? In favour. Bew? In favour. Ethin? In favour. Phil?
Applied.
In favour. Wyn isn't here. Ivor? Brian?
No, I'm against.
Tracy? In favour. Tim? In favour. Owain? In favour. There we are. That's passed. So everyone but one is in favour. So thank you for that. Right, list of enforcement notices. Chair, for proceeding. Can and when come back in? Yes. Oh yes. Yes.
Anwen anyhow.
Is Anwen back? Anwen's back. So list of enforcement notices, page 30. This is for information. Are there any questions on this? 32, page 32. 33. Oh, Mr. Chairman. Elved. No, Gethin. Back to page 32, please. What is Goitre Ganllin? I happened to pass this during the summer, and I could ask myself why there were two caravans in open countryside. What's the reason for breaking the rule? Because it looked totally out of character of the place. All right. Well, who's going to respond to that? I'll answer that, Alan. Alice, thank you. After looking into the site, found that the two caravans had been there for a number of years, which meant that they didn't fall into category of something we could do something about. That's the reason. That's the answer. Can I ask how many years, please? I don't remember off the top of my head. We looked into it. I can look into it and come back to you if that's all right. After how many years do we not look into things? Well, they've been there for over 10 years. So I can't say exactly how many years, but they are over the period that we can do anything about. Okay, thank you very much. Tim? On page 33, number 13, Tanfor Hesgan, I just want to know what is the reason if it's expedient to not to take formal action. Yes, I can answer that too. There was a building there before the new building that's been replaced. So they've been replacing a building. It's very similar size and height, about the same height as the building that was there previously. The same sort as well. So there's not much change there. And that was the result. We decided that it wasn't expedient to take formal action. So they changed. No, we asked them to put an application in. They refused to do so. So that's why we went on to consider taking formal steps but we came to the conclusion because the new building was similar to the previous one. Thank you very much. Page 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, go back to 39. Bryn Creek, since June 2017, nothing's been happening. Any comment on this?
Yeah, no, I can respond to this. The issue that we have here is that obviously the property is empty. We've exhausted all avenues in terms of actually trying to locate the owner. Obviously Section 215 had been served on the property, hasn't been complied with, and we've now instructed legal proceedings to prosecute for the non-compliance of the Section 215. Obviously, if we can ascertain where the owner is, it would be hugely appreciated. But obviously, in this instance, we're tied, so we've just taken the formal action and going through the prosecution proceedings, probably similar to what we did with St David's Hotel in Harlock.
Yeah, but I can understand why it's taken. Does every case take this amount of time? You know, it's from 2017, which is what, 4 years nearly.
Yeah, in respect to this, when we've then taken formal action, I can't just think now exactly when we did the actual notice, and it was in 2019. We have to provide a period of time for the relevant repairs and what we're requiring to improve the condition of the property. We've got to provide that opportunity for that work to take place. And in this instance, I think it was about 10 months or so. So obviously we have to provide that. So that in itself was nearly put on a year in respect to that. Obviously then we've still been trying to locate the owner, and obviously the last resort is actually going for prosecution proceedings.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Page 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45. The question from Owain wasn't there about Nane Hall, wasn't there? Owain?
Would you like me to provide an update in respect to that, Chairman?
Yeah,
yes, please.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the survey work, we have had a meeting with CADU, and it has been agreed that we'll proceed to undertake a conditions survey. Unfortunately, that has been delayed, and I actually do have a meeting with a person who'll be undertaking the survey this afternoon to proceed to get that arranged, so we can undertake and see what's happening in terms of the external works that are required to basically safeguard the building. To organise that survey, we are going to need the use of a drone, which the authority do have a drone, and obviously we've had to get the consent of the owner to use that, as well as obviously getting the required consent to actually sort of undertake the condition survey itself. We've got the consent for doing the external survey, but at the moment we don't seem to have the consent for going inside the building, which we're pursuing. And if it means that we result in having to actually go for a warrant to gain entry to undertake that, we will be pursuing that. So that's the situation. Is hopefully the survey, I'll have more details sort of from after this afternoon's meeting, to obviously pursue that. But obviously it's very much a matter of pushing forward and getting the work done as soon as possible.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I think that Jane realizes that there are concerns amongst the members about this building. So it's good to see that priority is being given to this case. Fine, thank you very much. 48, no, 46. Question there? No, so move on to section 106 agreements. Decisions not decided. Mr. Chairman. What's happening there? The second one.
Yeah.
Putting up a mast, yes. 13 weeks of more have gone past. What's happening there? Yes. So waiting for the Welsh Government Highways Department. Who's able to answer that?
Sorry, apologies, which item, which number is it? Which reference number are we looking at?
NP5.
Page 55.
Yeah, 55.
4780.
Sorry, what's the reference number? I think the pages might be out of sync.
Yeah, NP5 74 4780.
Sorry, I thought that was the one. The officer's actually on leave at the moment, but I understand that we're still waiting additional information in the construction environmental management plan. I know that there's been ongoing negotiations and discussion in terms of sort of justifying the location of the site and so forth. So it's a continuation of basically of progressing the negotiations on that.
Thank you very much. 52, page 52. Then we're going to the list of background papers for information and then supplementary planning guidance, planning obligations. Thank you very much. I'm not sure how to put my camera on, so I'm not sure if I'm presentable enough. Are you happy for me to carry on just with a blank screen? Yes, fine. Okay. Good morning. Thank you very much. Yes. Carry on. I'm here to introduce to you the supplementary planning guidance and planning obligations for formal adoption. And the decisions in September last year. This was subject to public consultation of 8 weeks rather than 6 last year. The details are public and with changes. So the proposed, actually, as you see in the report, only 5 comments were received, despite the number of people who asked for hard copies. The comments received were valid, but it was decided that only 1 comment was essential to be included. So, one, and this is to be found in table 6, guidance 1, and the reason for changes on this changes. The SNPA needs to be flexible in a way that reflects and provides more guidance to the national guidelines, and also needs to be able to cope with updates in policies, planning policies, and relevant considerations. So we need a catch-all aspect in a way to make sure that there are no exceptions. And as I said in the response in Appendix 1 to the comments, the guidance have considered the proposed guidelines are appropriate, suitable for the purpose. So the recommendation this year is for you to note the contents of the consultation and comments made during consultation, and to formally adopt the planning obligations SPG as a material planning consideration. Thank you very much. Any comments from anybody? If not, I propose that we accept. Thank you very much. Owain? Yes, I'm willing to propose. Just want to comment on Appendix A on page 60. I think that this reflects the recent emphasis on Welsh Government and to increase the opportunities for improving ecology. And I'm aware, wearing my agent's hat, that research has been done by the park on Gwynedd Môn into how appropriate it is to use this. So this expands the flexibility of the guideline, I think. So I'm very happy to propose that we accept this. Is there a seconder?
Brian.
Brian.
I'll second it.
Okay, fine. Go to a vote. Are we going through the same system?
Unless you
want to see first if there's a clear majority to be seen. If you can, then if not, we can go to an individual vote. Okay. Everyone who is in favour, can you show by putting up your blue hand? Blue hand to be seen. So, has everyone voted? We have a majority now. Okay. That has been passed. Thank you very much. So we go on now to item 6.2, supplementary planning guidance, telecommunications and masts. Thank you very much. Yes, this is a supplementary planning guidance on telecommunications and masts. The purpose of it as a SPG is to allow guidance to developments who want to put in applicants in advance, and so that and to help the officers and members of the park decide on these issues. On the present situation, it went to a members working group in November, and following discussions, a few referrals and changes to the draft version. I have included a list in the report. I'm happy to go through them if you would like to go through this, or I'm happy to answer questions if you have questions. And then in terms of recommendation, the recommendation is to approve the draft telecommunications and mast SPG, subject to any modifications considered, and it'll go out to public consultation for 6 weeks. Thank you very much. Any comments from anyone? If not, we go to a vote on the. So everyone to put a blue. Mr. Chair, before you go to a vote, one short note about I'm pleased to see the changes that are there. Bottom of page 123, paragraph 1.15, there's a reference to the mast of the current ones, and it goes through, but on the paper version there's no link. You can't go through. There's no link on the paper version. No, I'll put that in. No. It doesn't work in the Welsh version either. The link doesn't work on the Welsh version to the map. Ydy? Yes. Yes, the link is only in the English version. Okay. Any other comments? If not, can everybody put your blue hand up if you agree?
We are going to apply to one
So a majority in favour there. That has passed then. Thank you very much. Right, we'll go on to delegated decisions approved for information. So, and then refused applications. If no, any comment, has anyone any comments? Gethin wants to speak. You're on mute, Gethin. Sorry. Just want to ask a question about one of those who've been refused. Page 139, number 2. Construction of agricultural building and roof over dry manure store. Esgar Gawr, yes? Yes. Is it just a roof over the store, or is there a new building being built also from a new? I would understand why it's been refused if it is, but if it's just a roof over a store, I don't understand. What it says, insufficient information has been provided, particularly in relation to detailed plans, ecology and flood consequence to enable a full assessment to be made of the proposal. That's why it was refused. Right, okay, fine. That's it, I think. So we finished. Thank you very much.